Good morning.
Hi.
You look very beautiful today.
Well, thank you. Okay. Let me tell me what this. Oh, you look so beautiful.
Thanks, girl. Today I'm going for my consultation for my hair. I'm going to get some extensions just to give me some body on my wedding day. Because I feel like when I get nervous, I always like mess with my hair and then it like droops down.
Yeah.
So, girl, they're expensive. So, anyways, I have to get like lash extensions and like makeup and all this stuff.
Hold on one second. Okay. All right, so Salina's hopping in. Let me know what the screen looks like. I'm going to share that slide.
Good morning.
Good morning, Salina.
Oh, hey, Salina.
I can see your screen.
Yeah.
And it looks like how it's supposed to without the gray toolbar. Yeah.
And it's side by side?
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of, I'll just send it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Oh, you guys can't see me. There we go. Okay.
There you go.
Now we can. Okay, that looks good.
Okay.
Salina, how does it look on your end with the slide and the panelists?
So I see that you see your slide with global, and then I see us three on the right.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Debbie, I'll just say good morning, everyone. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Global Furniture Group, and then we'll get started.
Okay, and then I'll just say thank you so much for allowing Global to sponsor this episode. We're also excited to provide this content to you at no charge, and we ask that you please consider a donation with Teams with a Purpose, one of our favorite nonprofits. There will be a donate now link. Where will that link be housed? Is that just like on our website or?
We should ask Allie real quick.
The only thing I need to wrap up. Let me ask Allie. And then it'll cut back to you and you'll start.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, you're texting her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now we're just waiting on Shea and Thurmond. I already talked to Thurmond this morning, resent the link. He should be getting on soon.
Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Hi, Mary.
Hey, Mary.
I was trying to get some background going, but I can't find, I don't like Zoom. I rather Teams.
So Mary, when you see your little video and it says like stop video or put your video on, there's a little arrow at the top right. If you click on that, then it'll say choose virtual background. So you can add.
Oh, there it is. Duh. I was just looking at that.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
A little slow today. Oh shoot, I don't have a video background. Nothing's popping up.
You can add one quick if you want to, Mary. Like go out online and like find it from your Kimbal and throw it in there.
Yeah.
Save it as a JPEG.
Let's see.
It's from PayPal. Okay.
But where is that? Like, how do they get to it?
Alexis, do you know how many people we've got today?
I think the last number was 45 were registered yesterday at like 4 or 5. So maybe we got a few more and then maybe some this morning. So one guy in our office, I like saw him in the attendees and I called him. I was like, get off until 9 o'clock. Like, we got to things. And like the way it's set up, like I had to go ahead and broadcast so that like all of you can come in.
Because are you recording us right now? I'm looking at the little button.
Yes, we are recording right now.
Oh, okay. Let me turn my video off. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, Lauren's going to add it to the website.
Did you all use the link from the calendar invite?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Stop sharing because I gotta do this.
Oh, yeah.
How's everyone's morning?
Girl.
Busy?
That's so weird. It's Shea saying that there's another meeting in progress.
Oh.
So when I opened it up, it had said, you know, if you're the host, then you click this. But if you're not, so make sure that she didn't click the host.
As an attendee.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just to scroll down, yeah.
I'm sending her the just like the actual code. So maybe that will work. Oh. We have a few people starting to come in. I'm excited. Yay. And then if y'all want to tell me anything through the chat, you can just like chat to all the panelists and it'll just go to us throughout.
Okay.
I'm excited, y'all.
Good time.
Good. The rain tried to, rain on my parade this morning. Straight hair and rain, don't mix.
Don't mix.
And I went to get my coffee and I think there's like a hole or something and it just like keeps leaking every time I pick it up. So
on your white shirt.
I know, yeah. It's a white silk blouse. So
you're like, what could go wrong, right?
Exactly. So
not always the case.
We're working with that.
Mm-hmm. You always look good, Alexis. You're fine.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Gonna try. Should I do glasses? No glasses?
I like both. That's nice.
I say, girl, rock it both ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just pull them off when you ask the question to us like that.
Now. Oh yeah, this is gonna be good. Okay.
You're not putting this recording part in there, right? This is the blooper part.
When we actually post this, I'll make sure we cut all this out.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. Okay. Cool. Now, hopefully that worked for Shea. I hope it works soon. We still have a few minutes. Do y'all have any plans for later today?
I have another presentation after this.
Oh, really? What time is that presentation?
11:30.
Okay. So if we go to 10:05.
Yeah.
Hopefully we should
work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deadlines and
And then of course, Noah started virtual school, so that's been fun with all those challenges. So it's like baby feedings, virtual school, all these different things in between full-time job, full-time mom. It's fun.
Right? Absolutely. Juggling and juggling. And look at this. I'll just do some.
Oh, look at the cup.
Well, I have.
It's only water, but it's okay. I had to run out.
Am I getting my cup?
Yes.
Look, I did the newsletter 8 years some odd ago, moons ago. I remember Diane was like, are we all going to go back in? You know, Diane and Susan, I'm like, let's
So I
go back
see
in.
Shea at stencil and not. Does that mean she has to be pulled over? You're on mute.
I'm trying to pull her over, but oh, there's her second one. Okay. Maybe it wouldn't move her over. So hopefully now it will.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yay, the gang's all
Oh,
here.
Awesome.
Yay.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thurmond, you're on mute.
Oh, am I?
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah.
Shay's on mute.
Oh, you scared me. I was like, okay, this thing better be working this time.
They said, I'm traveling and doing this. Get it,
Yeah.
Shay.
No, Shay, how's your anniversary trip?
Oh, that's right.
I saw she did the rocky stairs.
I did do the rocky stairs. It wasn't that bad at all.
So I emailed my whole GID.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Mhm.
I emailed my whole GID crew. That's the governing tour guys. That's Typhia, Vincent, Theo, Wanda, Barbara, all of them to jump on and to attend the event as well. So they're excited. They were surprised they never heard about it. They were like, we're just hearing about this. I was like, what?
That's why we sent it out multiple times. See, that's why I sent all of you the link too, so you can invite your people.
Right. They were like, we need to spread this out, especially Theo. Theo's like,
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Yes.
always in the know, and I don't know about this. So like, what?
Well, does he know about episode 4 or 2 through 5 as well?
I sent him the whole link, so he has all the episodes.
Nice.
Perfect.
I
I
told
love
them,
that little.
I told them to attend every single one of them, so you can have as high ratings as possible. I don't even know what ratings count in this world. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely look at those numbers, but I think at the end of the day, if we can just kind of like, even if we brought education and like a new perspective to a handful of people, I feel like we've kind of done our job.
Yeah, that's good. It's good.
Yeah.
'Cause I know you guys are getting webinar out, because I mean we get so many different webinars, but it's good to have something that's a little bit in our lane,
Mm-hmm.
not always business oriented.
Mhm.
Exactly. That's why I'm so excited about this. Like, I don't know, I've been kind of like, oh man, how's it gonna go? But then after last week, like, I think we just have a really good panel right now. We're all excited. So,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm scared about the 3 minutes because I'm
Thurmond?
trying. I've been trying.
I am too. I am too.
Trying. I've been timing myself. I was like, man. Whew.
Look, Thurmond, and I'm at the end, so luckily I talk fast, right? So then I'll be able to. Because I told Mary yesterday, I said, Thurmond, he can talk.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I got I got notes. I got breakpoints. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to sum it all
Okay.
up.
I'll send you a little note if I feel like, okay, let's wrap it up.
All right. I'm gonna go as fast as I can. I'm not gonna...
Thurmond, Shea, let's leave some time for Salina at the end, okay?
But y'all are talking about great points too. So, I mean, that's kind of why I'm happy like we were able to keep it to the 4. And so then now it kind of gives you all that leeway to be able to maybe do like 3 to 5, but let's definitely not.
Oh, I get 2 extra minutes?
No, let's wait until the end and then we can expand. Whatever we have left. Okay, people are starting to jump in. Can y'all see this screen when it pulls up, my participant screen?
No.
Oh.
Okay, perfect. Good. So you only see the slide, right? And yourself. Perfect. Man, it's already Thursday. That Monday off is just, it's helpful, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
I feel like a lot of people took off yesterday and today just to make it even longer.
Yeah. I was going to, if football season would have happened, I would have had yesterday off too, because then we would have been in Atlanta at the first football game of the season, Georgia versus Virginia, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then nope, you're not going. Oh well, better luck next year, I guess.
Yep, I agree with.
Shea, what do y'all have planned for today?
We're going on a lobster bait cruise.
Ooh.
So, yes, we're
Exciting.
going to eat today.
Yeah. Hey, that's always good.
And I really like that we're recording these because so many designers will say that, you know, they can watch it like after their kids go to bed, like after the whole day. And they're like, man, I really wish that that was recorded and was published. So that's good that we're doing that.
I'm not sure if that's my thing. Let's just ask Allie. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back through and watch them too. Just for my own, kind of see my hosting skills, maybe brush up on those.
So how many of you guys have worked with these Zoom breakouts where you have a group of people and you're in a big Zoom and you break them out into groups, they go do something for a period of time, then they come back into the big group? Because I'm about to do that with my class. So
Every time I've tried it with, it's not really worked. So like basically you have to have like those breakout rooms, like kind of already be assigned for people, or like they already have to have that. You can't like make the breakout room, like in the middle of this, I wouldn't be able to make that room. And so then everyone could switch. But I think if you have it set up before, then it works pretty smooth.
okay, all right, duly noted.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
Did y'all just start back?
No, I'm online all the from the beginning of fall. So that's my VCU class in design thinking. So we're excited about that. So I can tell the kids are getting burnt out, staying at home, watching the screen. So I try to make jokes. I am very diligent about the time, y'all. I don't take them over time. Try to cut it short. I got a lot of alarms around.
A lot of alarms.
I took heed of that, you know, at the very beginning. I was like, my wife was telling me, she's like, they really don't like you going over time for class and everything. So make sure stopping early, you know, you will gain a lot of goodie points with your students if you're leaving a little time for them to get to their next class and everything. So.
But Thurmond, I'm sure that they're really engaged with your class. You know, it just seems like, you know, you'd want to pull them in and give their thoughts and insights too, you know?
I do, because I mean, I am one of those realistic teachers, and I understand it's 6 in the evening. So some of our students, they're cooking dinner, you know what I'm saying? And they seem as though they're a lot relaxed. I remember they were really stressed out and tense at the very beginning. And, you know, the meeting yesterday was really interesting because, you know, 2 kids were in the kitchen, you know, cooking dinner. We were like, what are you making? And, you know, we took a little detour about what they were making, and it kind of brings them back in. And so when we started discussion session, everybody was contributing. Nobody was shy. And, you know, you can't do that in design thinking. You have to be engaged. And I'm trying to do it virtually. So it's really hard and everything. So we were talking about positioning body posture in this little box that we're in right here, this little box right here. And how what you do you lean in the conversation, which gives somebody a sense of you're engaged, or do you stand back, look at your watch, check your phone and everything? and stuff like that. And, you know, we were talking about that. So we're stepping into that interview process when you're interviewing people.
That's right. Get them ready.
Yes.
So is my
Yes.
body posture acceptable?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
And as soon as I see y'all start leaning back in my conversation, I'll be like, okay, time to wrap it up.
That's a good cue, yeah. Maybe I'll do that for you.
Yep. I'll be like, okay, cut. That's it.
Before you see this, Thurmond. Let's wrap it up.
Alexis, did I accidentally push something on recording?
I don't believe so. What did you push? No, I think we're still recording, yeah.
So we're giving everybody these tips on interviewing right now in this recording.
Yeah, so all these people who are coming in early, get these nuggets, take them with you. You're gonna need them. Not sure how long we'll be virtual.
So right now we have 14 attendants. And
I think we're gonna let people hop on until 9:03 and then we'll get started.
okay.
You know, I have this in my ear because I'm listening to another thing, but no one's on the call, and I'm like, maybe I'm not supposed to be on this one. Same thing happened yesterday. I'm trying to do two things at once. It's a great thing about being at home. If you got 2 or 3 laptops, you can do everything. You can just, multitask.
Yeah. Man, this rain is it really raining like where y'all are? It's kind of coming down out here.
Yes, it is raining.
It looks like it has rained here, but I don't know if I count.
You count. You matter, girl.
Every time I see rain, it
I'm a
means
little far
grass
away.
needs to be cut. Every time rains here is all about grass cutting this weekend. I was like, man, do I have time to cut the grass?
That adult life right there.
Yeah, that's why you keep your son close by.
My colleague in Virginia Beach said that it's pouring in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
A lot of rain here yesterday, and it's just spotty off and on.
That means my plants don't have to be watered today.
There you go.
Y'all, I'm so happy I successfully brought a plant completely back to life. Like it had died. Oh, this poor thing had died. And she is just flourishing now. And I just feel like a proud plant mom every single time I walk past her. Man, now I want to buy more, but I'm scared they're going to die too. And then I have to bring them back to life. So I'm just going to stick with the one for now. But that's my little accomplishment for the summer.
That's awesome because I have a black thumb. I kill everything. I gave up.
I saw a doormat that said, "Home is where my plants die." And I was like, I should probably get that. I feel like every single plant that I buy just dies.
Oops. Okay, there we go. Maybe that's okay. 2 more minutes, guys. You're joining.
I had a designer reach out that said she's loving this plant conversation. So not only will you be hearing from our panelists speaking about diversity through design, we'll also be talking about how to love your plants or not.
Yes, how we kill them and bring them back to life. So
But there's a lot of designers if you look on their stores on Instagram that have a lot of green thumbs out there.
Yeah, it's insane.
I'm jealous.
Same.
I am really jealous too.
That's
with being military, I am a somewhat of a prepper, and you get to the point where it is time to do your own vegetables. You go in a grocery store, and I'm not cool with buying stuff from Chile and other countries. I'm not. That's just not me. You know, I I've been in the Navy. I've been in a lot of these countries. I know what they do in the fields, and I'm like, oh, nah.
Noted. Okay, gotcha.
Thurmond, you growing your own garden? Is that what's going on?
Hey, I'm trying. I'm not saying I got a super green thumb, but I try. I got 2 plants. I got my tomato and I got a cucumber plant named Colleen. Colleen is giving me some problems.
Colleen, oh my God.
My tomato plant, Steve, he is producing left and right, but Colleen is just holding back from her brother. I'm like, come on, I need some cucumbers.
Just give her some time. She'll pull through.
I talked to her. My wife think I'm crazy. I'm out there talking to Colleen. I said, Colleen, come on, man. You got to work with me. I'm trying.
When we went into quarantine at my job, they sent out an email and they sent everyone home immediately all at one time. They were just like, pack your stuff and leave. So everyone packed up and ran out, and I ran out without my plant. So I haven't seen Charlie in 6 months.
Oh no.
I can only hope he's doing okay.
Poor Charlie.
I love how you all name the plants too.
Yeah, you have to talk nice to them so that they will grow and flourish.
Yeah. See, my grandfather for 37 years had a garden in the center of Churchill, in that Churchill dirt for a long time. And I think that he would look down on me and be like, about time, son, about time. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so panelists, it is 9:03, so we definitely want to be cautious of all of our attendees' time. So I want to thank everyone, but first we are going to hear from our first episode 1 sponsor. Debbie, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. Global's really proud to sponsor this episode. And on behalf of IIDA, we're really excited to provide this content for free. And we ask you to please consider a donation to Teens with a Purpose if you can. It's one of our favorite nonprofits, which is, the link is going to be on our website, and it's also in our Zoom registration. And you can donate, or you can go in there and kind of research, do a little bit more of digging of who they are. And we're just proud to sponsor. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Global. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and then we'll go just to our panelists, okay? So again, thank you everyone for joining us, our panelists. Thank you for volunteering to tell your stories today. We definitely also wanna thank our audience, like I said, for joining episode 1 of Diversity Through Design. It's our 5-part webinar series, and IIDA and 757, we definitely felt like it was necessary for us to shift our, most recent topics of COVID and how that's impacted us to a topic that's probably not talked about enough, and that's the lack of diversity within architectural and design. And so, as you can see, we have a very diverse panel today, and each of them, they're going to share their story about how they were introduced into design and the challenges that they faced when they started to develop their careers. And so, just for myself, I know I fell into design kind of on a whim. When I started my program in college, it was very apparent that my white peers had family and friends that had helped them kind of learn about the business well before college. And so through my first year, I felt like I was behind, and it was kind of hard for me to pick up on like the lingo, terminology, a lot of the concepts that we had or that we were talking about. And so I can only equate like my lack of knowledge of the design community just kind of to my background. And so my parents definitely did the best that they could to raise me and my siblings, but they kind of preached the idea of you need to be a doctor or a lawyer or go to a career that's going to make you a lot of money. And they didn't really push like arts and design and just, different avenues. And so I can kind of only say that maybe they did that because they kind of struggled with their own money and finances. And so they wanted to make sure that I didn't have to go through that. But I kind of missed out on a whole opportunity. So luckily I was able to fall into design. And so now I'm, right there with my peers, and I'm happy that I was able to kind of experience everything that I did through college and now through my profession. And so as we kind of go through today, I want you all to kind of look at this through two different lenses. Like kind of ask yourself, like, how does my story different from our panelists? But then also, why is it different? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start off with our first speaker today. He is a young man and he currently works with the DOJ. He's also a professor at VCU, the first Black interior design professor at VCU, so that's awesome. And so he's going to tell you a little bit about himself. And when I first heard his story, I was like, oh, you're perfect for this. So let's give it up to Thurmond Alford.
Thank you very much, Alexis, and thank you, Debbie, for global and everything. I'm gonna try to keep this to the time that you say, because I'm a little, people know me, I'm a little long-winded, so I'm gonna try to keep it tight. So my story basically has 4 phases. And the first phase is basically like everyone else, high school. I'm a creative guy. Art was my thing in school. I left high school, went out into the Navy. And in the Navy, I'm communication, travel around the world, seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly of the world, and learn a lot from that. During my stress relieving time, that the art was what I did. And that led me to a couple of things within the Navy, led them to sending me to blueprinting school, doing our renovation and our technology upgrades. When I left there, while in the renovation and everything, I applied to VCU, got into VCU, and that's when I went into phase 2. VCU starts off in their art program and art foundation. Everybody starts in art foundation. So I was doing like everyone else, going into graphic design, and I come across a professor, Yu Gao, Chinese professor, pretty cool guy and everything. And when we were talking about what we wanted to go into, I mentioned graphic design. He told me something that profound to this day. He said, "Why would you want to be a poster maker when people can work and live in your art and your creation?" That blew my mind. I was like, whoa, as a young student, that was deep. And so I went into the interior design department and never looked back. In that time, in the interior design department, I interned for a couple of places. VCU has a facility department and an interior design department there on campus. And that's where I met my first supervisor. That's Lori Finn. Laura Finn is an African-American interior designer, VCU alumni as well, and started working for them. Karen Gerard was there, and Mary Cox, one of the architects. From there, I started working for another group, this interning or summertime job, and that was Gwatney Design Group. And that was Suzanne Gwatney and Sheila Harrell Gwatney Design Group. And that's basically where I learned my creative confidence. Those ladies were tough. And they build creative confidence in you because you couldn't be a slacker. You couldn't be timid with them. Because I recently found out that Gwatney Design Group was the first African-American commercial interior design company in Richmond, Virginia. And I didn't even know that at the time and everything. Another person that was influential was one of my fraternity brothers, Dwayne Brown, an African-American interior designer as well. So then I went to phase 3. Phase 3 was commercial work. I worked for Ushi Designs down in Virginia Beach on Atlantic Avenue. There I met another African-American interior designer, that was Jerry Taylor. Jerry Taylor and I, friends to this day with Dwayne. I started working for Creative Office Environments. And then from Creative Office Environments, that's when I got into commercial furniture, steel case stuff. And steel case led me over to SunTrust Bank. Working at SunTrust Bank, I got into what we call corporate wide interior design standards. And that led me on to moving into the federal government. When I was at SunTrust Bank, Jerry Taylor was now with the Corps of Engineers. He won 2006 Interior Designer of the Year for the Corps of Engineers. He convinced me, he says, man, you need to come into government and be a GID, a government interior designer. Never heard of that. So shortly after 9/11, I got a position with the U.S. Air Force in the Pentagon as an interior design project manager working there. And in that time, that's when I took the lessons from SunTrust Bank, and we started working. We created the Air Force-wide interior design standards at the Pentagon, doing that renovation. That led me over. During that time, I met another influential person in the interior design industry, and that was Theo Bell. So Theo Bell, Jerry, and Dwayne, we were called the Three Amigos. And we did a lot doing NeoCon and NeoCon East and all the events there. And working at the Pentagon, that led me over to my current job. I'm the FF&E Program Manager, Design Lead for a division in the Department of Justice. During that time, as a GID, Government Interior Designer, we met other interior designers, African-American interior designers there. Vincent Carter from DHS, Wanda Cope-Fowle from Corps of Engineers, Tafia Kohler from the White House, Barbara Cato from the IRS, and we are all, that's our group of GIDs. Went into phase 4. While working in the federal government, we got into the whole open environment situation with design, and that led me to discover interior design. Excuse me, led me to discover design thinking in Radford University, and I got my degree, my master's degree in design thinking at Radford University, and you know, that's where I'm at right now, and that's the story. And also, I got to put a note in there. Kaya Witherspoon, she's also an African American professor at VCU too, so it's 2 of us.
Oh,
There and
awesome.
everything. So Kaya's there with me as well, teaching business and everything. But yeah, that's my story. I hope I kept it under the time limit.
That was great. So I am going to ask you a few questions. You mentioned a lot of people who are in leadership roles. And so I want to ask you, how important is it for you to see African Americans in leadership and teaching roles?
Well, look, I think it's really important. It's extremely important for the trajectory of young designers. Basically, you have to have that leadership and that teaching role there, and to see people that looks like them, so they can come and talk to you about certain things. Because as a younger designer, you're scared. You don't know what's up, down, left, and right, and you got to have some kind of guiding principle or guiding mechanism or guiding rod out there. I look back now. To me, Kareem Rashid was my guiding rod, who I wanted to emulate myself after. He's still to this day somebody I want to emulate myself after. But yeah, and I
Nice.
guess yes.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying that my trip to Shanghai was another part of it. Chow Yi Gao, you know, a Chinese professor with that. He sent me off to Shanghai. He invited me to come to Shanghai to lecture on commercial interior designs while I was in SunTrust Bank. And that was eye-opening to me, and that intensified my creative confidence that, you know, I was doing something that I loved and people were receiving it and I was getting paid for it. And, you know, you can't get better than that, you know.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. So I do have one more other question. So this is not just geared towards diversity, but more so across the, well, I guess it is. Anyway, so I know women, we always, we automatically get labeled as decorators. And so for a male perspective, as a designer, how important is it for you to differentiate that? I know you have a story about how you stopped the whole meeting.
That's a big yes. While I was at the Pentagon, the Air Force, I was going into a meeting with a 3-star general and his staff, and he introduced me as the Air Force interior decorator. I stopped the whole meeting and I proceeded to explain to him what the difference between a decorator and a designer and everything. And it was a couple of 4-letter military terms used in there, colorful language that they were used to, because I was kind of heated at that time, you know, that he would call me out like that, but called me out as a decorator. And, you know, I basically, here's my assessment. Interior decoration and interior designer, decorator uses their passion for color, pattern, form, and function to press their trends on their customers. Interior designers are academically trained to assess their customer needs and provide the best design for them, regardless of the designer's personal style. This is done with an empathetic mindset cultivated in early design studio classes, overlapped with material, technical, and business classes during the designer's years in university. That's my take on, you know, when a decorator comes and challenges me, I'm called a decorator. It's it's still, even when you say it, it just raises my level like this.
Thurmond, that's interesting that you say that, because with your associates when they asked, because I know that a lot of designers have expressed that even within our own community of A&D architects and designers and engineers, and I think there is still some confusion on what actually our designers do.
Right.
So even from their peers, there's confusion too. So that's something that I feel like we always have to kind of repeat all the time. So
I ask people to really, really study other cultures, interior designers in other countries, because in China it's a wholly different thing. Interior design is a respected profession to the highest level, and it's equal with architects and engineers. I work with architects and engineers all the time, and we always riff at each other. It's always a thing, especially with the architects. The engineers, we know they can't design worth nothing. I mean, they corduroy jeans and flip flops. I mean, and the designers know I do it in love. I mean, the engineers know I do it in love, but we always riff each other. And it's just, I'm surprised. And I mean, even now in Virginia, you guys know that they're up trying to get rid of the certification right now in the state of Virginia. So every interior designer need to be calling, their city council, and their mayor, to talk about this whole thing. And so that we don't get rid of our certification. We need our certification. That proves our worth. And those 4 years and all that money your parents and you worked for your degree, and someone just tosses out and said, well, I got mine in the back of a Sears catalog, that's dating me, because we don't have a Sears catalog anymore, but you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to say, for all of our attendees that are listening in, I hope that you kind of caught that definition of how he differentiated the decorator to designer, because we do have that. Our certification is on the chopping block right now. And so they need more people to comment and comment in support of our certification for the state. And so that can definitely be something that you include in that comment. Thank you, Thurmond. That was great. I know that you have a lot of people laughing right now in the chat box. So thank you for that. We're going to move on now. So this next person is going to be Mary Redd. She's going to be talking, and I've had the privilege of working alongside her for the past few years on the IIDA board. And y'all, she's just such a sweet soul. She's kind of, really turning into a mentor and a second mother for me, because I'm far from my mother. So Mary, I would love to hear your story.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So I have to go back from the very beginning, because I think all of it has influence on your life, as far as your placement of growing up. So I'm the youngest of 7. I was always competing with my brothers. I had to do everything my brothers did, including play football. And so growing up, we used to visit all these great structures and churches where my grandfather and uncles all had artisan, beautiful craftsmanship work, and I was always in awe of their craftsmanship. So I was that kid who was, you would draw constantly, color constantly, but I was really more focused on the details of the interior design or the exterior structure, paying more attention to those details than the subject matter. Just growing up, my oldest brother was in design, and so I saw some of his work, and that also intrigued me. So by the time I was in middle school, I already decided, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna do craftsmanship, I'm not gonna, that's too much labor. I was still in my manicure anyway, can't do that. So I just decided I want to be an architect, because it's like, that seemed like a great career, but I didn't see any minorities. I didn't see any females. So it's like, hey, if they could do it, why can't we? Mike Brady can do it. Hey, I can do it too. So growing up, we in high school, career day. I remember career day. The guys constantly, you do your little testing and everything. It's like, look, I already know. I want, I'm going to college to be an architect. I said, well, Mary, your math skills aren't strong enough. It's like, dude, you need to do another career. It's like, okay, thank you, because that just set fuel to my fire. It's like, anytime someone doubts me or say I can't do anything, it's like, wow, thank you for that encouragement. So went to University of Louisiana in architecture, stayed the entire time on the dean's list. So thank you, guidance counselor. And I was really super focused on finishing this 5-year curriculum in 4 years, where I could really concentrate my 5th year on my thesis project. So it was nose to the grind. I was heading that way, really, really working hard and really enjoying it because there was lots of other females and different minorities there in architecture with me. So I was just like, wow, this is great. I knew that, this was the right path for me. And so then young and dumb, I got married in college simply because my family said, oh no, you have to wait. Still married, okay. So then life happened about my 4th year where my husband's career transferred him, his job transferred us here to Richmond, Virginia. And unfortunately, I basically did have only my thesis project and a few other courses to finish my architecture degree. But I said, okay, next step, next best thing. Went to VCU in interior design and met this guy Thurmond and some of the other characters that he mentioned. So we had a great time there. Once graduated there, of course, at that time, I had started a family too. So again, throughout my career, going to school and then both in Louisiana and in here in Virginia, I was going to school full-time, working full-time, and then having starting my family. So by the time I graduated from VCU, the jobs that were offered really weren't paying enough to sustain me. Would have to take a pay cut. So it took like 6-9 months to actually find a job working as a designer for a local furniture dealership that actually I was able to make the move because it was paying a little bit more than I was already making. So did that, project management, and then the owner convinced me to go into sales. And it's like, sales? I'm not sales, I'm a designer. It's like, maybe just try. It's like, okay. And then later on, I went through sales for a couple of different dealerships. And then it's like, okay, I'm ready for the next step. And I knew I wanted to do next step is, try my hand at being a manufacturer's rep. And then the opening for Kimbal came along. It's like, ding, 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 that's me. And so 15 years later, I've been with Kimbal, and it's been really ever changing, ever evolving. So I'm constantly growing, and here I am.
Awesome. Yeah, I have to say, I'm happy you have kind of fallen into this because now we know each other, and so it's great. So I do have a few questions for you. So your guidance counselor said that you weren't smart enough, which she should have never said that. But also, I'm kind of curious. Did you notice that she was saying that to other demographics and kind of like pushing architecture and design to another demographic versus you and your peers?
So I really couldn't tell if she was or not because these were one-on-one sessions. And so, but my thing is, not many kids know what they want to do since middle school. So instead of embracing my passion and encouraging me, it's like, hey, I'm not failing math. Yes, I have a B in math. So lo and behold, it's a small Catholic school. So she really didn't encourage me. It's like, well, okay, maybe she should have said, if you want to go down this path, why don't you try to sharpen up your math skills a little bit more, some more encouragement instead of like, no.
Yeah.
But for me, with my character, it was perfect for her telling me no, that I couldn't do it because that was just inspiration for me.
Yeah. I mean, we could always say devil's advocate, maybe she was trying to use like reverse psychology, but
I got that.
you got it. Okay. So I do have another question. So you mentioned that you had to work several jobs through college. And I know that a lot of people in college, they want to, build up their resume, get jobs, even unpaid internships at design firms. Was that kind of offered to you? And if it was offered to you, did you see that as an option, or did you have to kind of pay your way through college?
Right. So yeah, that was always an option, that, unpaid internship. And I really thought about it, but I tell you, going to school full time, I was really in college, especially on the architecture side, I was doing, 20-hour, 24-hour loads and working 40 hours a week. So there was really no time to, in my day, 4 hours of sleep. So, so that unfortunately for me, even though those internships were there, I couldn't take advantage of it because financially I couldn't afford it. Then especially even moving here and getting married and starting my family, that was the issue as well. Unfortunately, you have to survive, and And that's another reason why we ended up moving, because we was like, okay, can we survive another year in Louisiana without making that move? But the economy at that point was in the dirt. So I had to give up my last year of architecture just to come here in order for us to survive financially.
Right. Yeah, so all of our attendees, I definitely want you to kind of think about that. Like I asked you in the beginning, kind of ask yourself how and why do their stories differ. I know a lot of people, some of them don't have to worry about working through college. They don't have to worry about, you know, paying their way, and they are able to kind of capitalize on those maybe unpaid internships or even internships that might pay just a little bit, but definitely not enough to get by on the bills. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is show like how our stories have differed from everyone else. Okay. So thank you, Mary. That was awesome. We are going to move on now. So our next speaker, her name is Shea. Some of you might know her. She's definitely just a fun-loving person, a go-getter. And so I'm excited for you all to hear her story. So Shea, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Shea. So for me, when I was a little girl, my parents used to give me toys, and I would toss the toys aside and play with the boxes and turn the boxes into whatever, houses, rocket ships, whatever it was. And my parents were like, what is wrong with this kid? And then as I started getting a little bit older, they noticed that I could draw very well. So they started giving me canvas and drawing pads and colored pencils and everything they could, and taking me to museums and festivals and anything art related that they could think of. And they're like, this girl can draw. And they really pushed the drawing. And I was actually really good at math as well. In my spare time, when I was a kid, I actually used to I was kind of obsessed with like efficient use of space. And I used to evaluate my room, and I would draw out an existing plan. It was just a drawing at the time. I didn't know it was a plan. And I would draw out like possible ways to lay my space, my bedroom out that was more efficient. And then I would rearrange my furniture all around, and then I would live in it. And I'd keep a little journal of how I was living in my space now compared to before, to determine what was the most efficient layout for my space. And I was just obsessed with it. My parents were like, what is wrong with this kid? She's always in here playing with boxes. She's always moving her furniture around. They didn't know what was going on. And then my grandfather was a bricklayer. My grandfather was a bricklayer, and when I used to go to his house, he would always be like, Shea, draw this for me. And it was always like an addition he was putting onto a church or a renovation he was doing here or there. And I would draw it for him just so that his crew would have some kind of a plan, because he was a very country contractor, I'll say. So he didn't use real plans. And so I was doing it for him, and he was explaining to me what I was doing, but I still had no idea what it was that I was actually doing. And then in 8th grade, the school district that I was in Chesterfield County actually introduced the pre-engineering program. And so I went to, and I applied for that program, and I got in, and I thought maybe I'll do engineering because it just sounded, I was really good at math and it sounded interesting. And I got into it, and I really didn't like it very much, but it was still eye-opening for me. And then I was up, I want to say it was either might have been 9th grade. I was like flipping through channels, and I want to say maybe like the first episode of Trading Spaces came on, and I sat there and I watched the entire episode. And by the time it was over, I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do with my life. And I was set. I was like, I'm going to be an interior designer. I love this. Whatever it is that they're doing, I need to figure it out, and I want to do it. And I told my family that's what I wanted to do. So then it was time to apply for college. My father actually used to wake my sister and I up every weekend, it felt like, at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, to work 12 and 16-hour days to renovate our house or put a new roof on or turn the garage into this. And I hated waking up early in the morning, but I loved that he got me involved. But I was so ready to be away from my family. I'd had enough. So my goal was to go to an HBCU and to be as far away from home as I possibly could. So I ended up attending a school in Mississippi, and I was actually accepted to SCAD, but when they sent me, and I was a basketball player. And so the basketball coach was talking to me about coming and playing for their team. But when they sent me the letter with how much money we were going to have to pay for me to go to SCAD, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford this. And I do not want to graduate from college with this much debt. So I went to Alcorn State University for a year, and I was majoring in accounting, and I had a minor in studio art. And after 1 year, I had more doodles on my paper than I had notes. And I was like, this is not for me. So I came back home and I transferred schools and I ended up going to VCU. When I got to VCU, I really enjoyed it a lot. I would say that I quickly noticed that there was a difference in how much in the financial resources that others had in comparison to me. But it didn't really bother me that much. I just saw it as like a challenge I had to overcome. So I had 3, sometimes 4 jobs the entire time that I was in design school in order to be able to afford to pay for the supplies, because my instructors used to require that we get everything professionally printed and sometimes professionally published when we turned something in at the end of each semester, and that was hundreds of dollars. In addition to the technology and the wood and the plexiglass and everything we were cutting up to turn into models and everything. So I was working, I was serving tables. I had an internship in DC, and I was driving back and forth from DC every Friday. I would go up there all weekend long, and then I would leave at like 3 o'clock in the morning and come back in time enough to make it for my 8 o'clock class on Monday mornings. And so I did that all through college for that reason, to pay for my supplies, but also because I wanted to make sure that my resume was really competitive. When I graduated, I wanted it to be easy for me to find a job. So after I graduated, I started looking for a job, and I was having a really hard time. I found that in Richmond, it felt very, I'm going to use the term legacy to me. Like they were hiring the children, nieces, grandchildren of people who are in the industry. And it made it really hard for me to break into the Richmond industry. So I actually started looking to move to major cities. And so I started passing my resume around, and I ended up reaching out to Eleanor Barton, who was my business instructor at VCU. And I was like, hey, can you give me some advice? And she said, Shea, you need a mentor. And she's like, I don't have time to do it right now. I just have too much on my plate, but I want to introduce you to someone. Her name is Suzanne Guavny. And so she introduced me to her, and her and I met for coffee. And I sat down and I spoke to her, and she told me her story. And she was the first African-American professional interior designer that I'd ever met before in my life. And she was like, let me make some phone calls for you. Let me see what I can do. I think you're really passionate. You're really ambitious. I want to help you out. So she started reaching out to people, and she reached out to Sheila Harold at Mosley Architects, and she was like, I have this girl. She just recently interviewed with you. You should really hire her. And they actually hired someone else and not me. And so I ended up going and I worked in Maryland. And then a couple of months into living in Maryland, I actually got a call from Sheila, and she's like, hey, we have an opening. If you want it, I have a job for you. And I finally broke into the industry that way. And I worked with Mosley for about 5 years. And then I just switched to NAVFAC 2.5, 3 years ago. And so I've been a government interior designer for about 3 years.
Awesome, thank you. So I do have a few questions for you, of course. So you mentioned that you went to an HBCU your first year of college, and that you majored in accounting and then minored in art and design. So even though you wanted to go to SCAD, what made you kind of get into accounting and just have art as the minor?
So when I was a junior and senior in high school, I was a part of the accounting club. And we used to do taxes I was trained how to do taxes, and we used to offer free tax services to the low income community out of the school, and I really enjoyed it. And the teacher who taught the accounting class was actually a deacon at my church as well. And so I was spending so much time around her at church, and then also through this program, and I was like, oh, I really kind of like accounting, and I'm really into numbers, and I always really like math. So I was like, I'll go to school for accounting, and I'll minor in studio art, and then I'll go to grad school for interior design. I just have to get as far away from home as I possibly could. And the SCAD decision, it was based on money. I mean, it was way too expensive. And then the other thing was, at that particular time, I was going strictly based off of what school is going to be the furthest from my current address right now.
You're gonna go like
16 hours was far enough for me. I was like, this worked.
Awesome. Okay, so you definitely mentioned that you were trying to build up your resume through college, and it sounds like it was pretty competitive coming out of college. And so how did that kind of make you feel going through the whole, just kind of the challenges you felt? You talked about the Richmond legacy. It was hard to kind of get your foot in the door. How did that make you feel? Like, do you feel like it was targeted just because they didn't know you, or could it have possibly been because of the color of your skin?
So, I mean, I can't really say for sure because I never asked anyone, are you not selecting me because I'm Black? You know,
Right.
I never asked that question, but I did have a few experiences earlier in my career that made me feel a little uncomfortable and made me feel like that was a barrier for me. When I had graduated from college, I actually had natural hair, but I didn't know what I was doing with it yet. It was just, so I just kind of pulled it back in a poof or whatever. And I had 2 interviews. I had one in Richmond and I had one in Baltimore with companies, I won't say what their names are. And when I showed up to the interview, I think they were not expecting me to be African American when I showed up based on my resume. And when I arrived, they gave me this look of disgust. And it was, I had never seen anybody look at me like that before. Like, they looked disgusted and shocked when I walked through the door. And then I reached my hand out to shake their hand, and they refused to shake my hand. And then I had to sit down with them and go through an entire interview and act as though that didn't just happen. And then I remember going home to my mom and telling her, I'm like, Mom, I'm having a really hard time. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get a job. I don't know how to break into this industry. And my mom was like, Shea, you have to straighten your hair. The reason why they won't hire you is because you have to straighten your hair. And that's where my mom came from, I guess, that, that old school kind of mentality. And so I was like, well, nothing else has worked, so I guess I'll try this. So I straightened my hair, and then I went to an interview, and then I started getting jobs. And so I was like, I don't know, maybe I don't know if this is a coincidence or what's going on here. But so yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that happened. And we shouldn't have to walk into a place and say, oh, just because my hair is straight, now I'm more, inclined to get this job. I mean, hair is hair, it's natural, it grows out of our head. So it should just kind of be what it is. And our employer should accept that. And so that's another thing I want our audience to kind of think about, like, how is that different from your story? If you haven't had that problem, then kind of think about what Shea just talked about. She had to sit there and pretend like that never happened through that whole interview. And she had to put a smile on and put a brave face on and just keep going. Because if she would have reacted, then she would have been labeled as like, oh, she's angry, and oh, like she's combative. She doesn't, she won't be good to work with. And so we can't always kind of react in that moment. And so that's kind of why it's hard for us sometimes. So thank you, Shea. I think a lot of people, I think that story kind of opened their eyes up. And so I really appreciate you being able to share that with us today. And so now we're going to go to our last speaker. Her name is Salina. If you don't know her, she's with National Office. And she has also a really great story just about like pivoting in adversity and not letting anything stand in her way. And so Salina, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Alexis, and thanks everybody. So my story has some similarities to it as well. So when I was young, my mom would always tell me that I had a great eye for color and design. And so I would take these shoe boxes and meticulously design them, right? And I would change out the floor patterns and so forth, and furniture and people, and super detailed, meticulously. And then in my high school years, I gravitated like Thurmond to art class. And really what intrigued me about that was, the mixed medium, working with acrylics, they dry faster. I would be in my room for countless hours, just like painting and so forth. And really what struck me behind that was being able to put together a composition, right? So you're basically telling a story. So naturally, I thought that I was going to do something with graphic design or design in general. So then after that, you're coming towards your senior year and you have a decision to make. And at that time I was running. So I basically could have went to Penn State on a full track scholarship or pursue my passion. So I went ahead and applied to Savannah School of Art and Design. I got in. Similarly to Shea's story, I got the acceptance letter. I looked at the tuition and I thought to myself, there is no way that I'm going to allow my parents to pay this exorbitant amount of money. It was just too much at the time. So then I decided that I would go into VCU. In-state tuition was going to be much less expensive than having to pay out of state. And I got in. And as Thurmond had mentioned, VCU, you have an art foundation program. So what you're in essence doing is you're putting together your portfolio so that way you could put it into the respective departments. And so naturally, I thought I was going to do graphic design, not knowing how competitive it was at the time. So I put it in. I got rejected. That was my first rude awakening, because here I am in college thinking, we're paying all of this money. I've invested all this time already. What am I going to do? And I still remember to this day standing out in the pavilion of the Pollock building, and one of my classmates happened to be there. And I said just an open-ended question, what am I going to do? And she basically had told me that the interior design department had their portfolio review the next day. Surely I would get in, go ahead and put my portfolio in. And I did. I did, in fact, get approved and accepted into the interior design department. But it was at that moment where I just thought to myself, wow, okay, I guess, thinking back to when I was younger, I did enjoy, design and rearranging my furniture. I probably get the great computer skills that I would be needing, Illustrator and Photoshop, then some, at the time it was AutoCAD, now we've moved into Revit. But that is in essence how I started. And when I graduated, just to kind of give you all a perspective, I entered into college in 2000, graduated in 2003. So similarly to Mary's story, where I just had that drive and determination to say, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get out and get the jobs and do what I have to do. Because at that time, I didn't do internships or anything like that. And so my next part of the story is when I went, I didn't have an interview like some other people, as Shea had mentioned. I basically was scanning my portfolio in Kinko's, and I had a lot of images in regards to Italian Renaissance. And there just happened to be a design firm owner. He was at AD&G at the time in Newport News. And he saw my stuff. He was getting ready to go over to Italy, and he's like, okay, would you want to come and work for me? And I was just getting ready to graduate college. And in 2003, and I said, well, I'm not quite out yet, but I'll be glad to. So basically, I didn't have to go through the interview process. He hired me right there on the spot. And I started his interior design department. And I was the head over all of that. And we would do several different things, from churches to government design with NASA and all of that. And then when I moved from, Newport News to Richmond is when I got into a larger firm and started to meet people in the industry that were up in Richmond. So 17 years later, for those that don't know me and that do, I'm on the manufacturer side, similarly to Mary with National, but I have seen several different, journeys and paths, but it's all a part of the story. So that is how I have gotten into the interior design world.
Awesome, thank you. So I know I kind of briefly spoke about how when I came into design, I didn't know anything. I kind of jumped into it on a whim. So how did you feel when you just decided to apply for the interior design program? Did you feel like you were kind of held back, or did you kind of use that as fuel to keep going and be better?
So honestly, Alexis, I would say, I didn't have any preconceived notions or expectations, right? Sometimes it's better not knowing, so that way you don't have the anxiety or the buildup of comparing yourself to another particular person. And so I thought that in my mind, being open to absorbing the information like a sponge and gaining what I needed in order to succeed, that benefited me versus having probably more knowledge of what I did not know and comparing myself to others. So being open-minded, very much.
Definitely. And so I definitely noticed that your story, it just talks about a lot of pivoting and facing adversity. And so what do you think the leading cause for why you were able to adjust so easily is? Do you think it was from your background, or just the way you were raised and how the way that your family just taught you to, be strong and stand up?
So in thinking about what I heard with Thurmond, he said that he had that military background. My family also has a military background. So at 3 years like clockwork, you're moving around. I saw Paris and France and all these different countries, right? So in essence, you're already geared up and set and ready. And so with me, I knew that it was the ambition, the drive, and the determination is really, I think, Alexis, what helped me. In life, we're all going to be thrown curveballs and challenges at times, but it is how we, address them and we overcome them. And so in my mind, I was willing to face anything, and I believed in myself. I didn't compare myself. And I think that that is really, truly what helps all of us aspire in our careers and to push forward, even in the face of adversity or challenges that we're presented with. So.
I love that. That's so empowering. I'm like, oh yes, girl, get it.
Let me be empowering for us all.
Yes. I'm going to use that every day.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. So thank you all of you for sharing your stories. And we do have some time left for some questions. We did get a few in the chat box. And so I'm going to kind of open this up to anyone. We had one person ask, do you think that your challenges have increased or decreased as you've moved on in your profession?
I would speak. I think they have increased as you grow in your design profession. Responsibilities increase, and therefore you get challenges, and you get challenging people that may perceive that you're not worthy for that particular position, and so it gets difficult, and the uh, the biases are deeper and hidden, and you have to pay really, really close attention to them because they come really, really sideways at you. So I experienced those a lot as we go, and you just got to like Celine said earlier, you just got to play that certain song that motivates you, and you just go in there and you just kick butt and take names and keep on going. You know.
Awesome. Does anyone else want to speak on that?
So I have a few instances too that I'll speak on. And so, in starting, you're younger, you're coming out of school, you're getting your first job, and there's these older architects. So where I started, there basically were tons of architects. So I was really crafted by architects, not designers. So I really found that, they're stuck, not every architect, but there's certain key older architects that would be stuck in their ways. And it challenged me because I was trying to gain their knowledge, right? And they would look at me and say, well, she's young, or whatever they thought about me. But I found myself having to, in essence, stand my ground and say, listen, we're in this together. We're working as a team. We're trying to get this project. And so having those, things that were arising at the time only builds your character and makes you stronger, because then you're going out and you're doing interviews and you may be coming up against people that are a little bit more abrasive, and it's how you're handling that. And so naturally, however people are going to perceive you, young, this, that, whatever the color of your skin, it's just how you handle those particular instances. And I think I can, even back in school, recollect where there were professors that were challenging as well. And you have to stand your ground and know who you are. And honestly, that just continues to build. And I think, as Thurmond said, you're going to find that throughout the course of your career, but you just, and you stay true to who you are. And that helps you to keep pushing and to keep going. But yes, I think we all are going to find those challenges, as Shea did with her hair, something as simple as your hair, and hearing that, it blows my mind, but we still have to address all of those things and be professional about it too. Go ahead, Mary.
And I agree. I think, both Salina and Thurmond are absolutely right on it, as far as we're always challenged, or people are always doubting doubting your capabilities, your education. So just like, in high school, I absolutely love when people doubt me, because that just fires me up. And it's like, please doubt me, because that just encourages me, because I love to prove people wrong. So that's encouragement. So bring it, and that's what the mindset you have to have.
Yeah, and I would say for me in this industry, I've definitely experienced challenges the more I've accomplished over the years. And for me, it was really challenging, just trying to figure out how to navigate it all. Like, I didn't know how to handle the different situations that were being thrown at me. Like, how do I handle this? How do I respond to this situation? How do I say this in a way that, and then like I can be a little mouthy sometimes, and I have to be very careful about how I craft the way that I say things so it doesn't offend anyone. And so I went through a period of time where it was like, I just won't say anything at all, because I don't know how to get this to come out so that no one takes it the wrong way. And now I speak up and I stand up for myself, but that comes with a whole nother set of challenges, because now it seems like they don't really want to hear me challenging them or standing up for myself. So I'd say that has been difficult. I know I mentioned earlier that Eleanor said that she didn't have time to be a mentor for me, but every time I had a question about how to navigate an aspect of this industry, I would reach out to her. Can we do coffee? Can we do dinner? And she always made time for me. And she's always been a part of like every major milestone of my life. And I've always been able to just be very like open and honest with her and just say, hey, this is what's going on. I don't know how to deal with this situation. And she always gave me like a very tactful approach of how to handle a situation. And I really appreciate and value that she has always taken the time to do that for me. It's really helped me a lot in my career personally. And I can only encourage people to take the time to do that for those that are younger, that are trying to work their way up into this profession.
Yeah, that we did have a question about, are you scared of being labeled if you speak up? And I think you just kind of touched on that. It's like, well, do you speak up and then, or do you not speak up? And then it's like, okay, then you're kind of conflicted inside, like, man, I should have said something, I should have stood my ground. Or then do you speak up and then you have all those other challenges of people kind of not expecting you to speak up and not wanting to, kind of challenge them, like you all said. So I think we all kind of like try and pick our battles and choose when to say what. And so sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we get a little mouthy, but sometimes it's needed. Sometimes you just have to stand your ground. So
we have to advocate for ourselves. I mean,
yeah,
truthfully.
Yeah, and I want to add in that you have to develop your crew. You have your mentor, but you also have your design crew. And, my crew, Vincent, Theo, Typhia, Wanda, all of them, we were emailing yesterday. And you emailed these people these questions because, I mean, you're in a situation where you may want to speak up, but you want to craft it very well. Mm-hmm. So you call your crew up and say, I want to say this, this, and this, and that's your design crew, so they know what you're thinking about. They were like, well, why don't you phrase it this way, and you'll get your point across a little bit more. Than it's easier to use honey instead of salt to attract. You know what I'm saying? And you got to know what flavor honey you're using. And I use my crew as my shelf of flavors of honey. How do I go to them with? And every single time I've come to them, I've gotten a little bit ahead of the next person by using that way of discussion. It's about your crew, having a design crew.
Nice. Yeah, that's great advice. A few more questions in our chat. So I know there's one question about how do we give back to our profession. This is a 5-part series, so we're going to kind of go over that and how we're giving back to our community. So definitely tune in. I think that's maybe episode 3 of 2 or 3. I'll have to look back at our schedule, y'all. So I don't want to get too much into that one. So I do want to kind of go on. There was a question that said that I know that I mentioned that I felt like I was behind a little bit through my program. And so the question is, like, did I have like a sense of belonging or community? Or can I give like an example of when I felt included or excluded? And I mean, I went to a state college in Atlanta, Georgia State University. It's not like known for its art and design program, but it's a small little college. I mean, it's a big college, y'all. It was a small little art and design program. And we maybe had like 12 people that we started with. And then we ended with like 8. And it was very cliquey. It was by the end of it, it was like, okay, all of them are like doing these internships and I'm out here working like 4 jobs just so I can like pay for my apartment and pay for my tuition. And so I definitely felt like, I don't know if maybe I excluded myself from the beginning because I always felt like, they're all like, they all understand each other. They all kind of like have this background. All of their parents were architects. They all like grew up like drawing on plans. And I'm like, what's an RCP? A what? A reflected ceiling plan? How do you do that? Like it was a struggle for me. But then by my senior year, I was like, okay, I have this. And then I kind of realized like, I can stand alone. Like, I don't need to fit in with them. I don't need to be accepted by them because I know that I'm talented and that I can still get a job without them. Like, they aren't going to be the ones that are paying my check, So I just kind of realized that I didn't need that approval. It wasn't really a sense of, oh, I want to belong or I felt excluded. I just knew that I'm standing firm in myself because I'm all I have. I'm all I need. So I hope that answered your question. So we do have another question for the reps that we have. So Salina and Mary, have you all experienced things that might be different from like the sales side versus a firm environment? Could you speak on that?
Do you want to go first, Salina?
Go ahead, Mary.
Because you did the firm side and the rep, so I was really on the dealership side. So I'll let Salina go first.
Yeah, so on the firm side, I mean, my career continued to flourish. I remember going on, during that recession in 2007 and 2008, basically we had to have myself move over to the Richmond office. This is when I was at Mosley Architects. And so I took over the whole higher education program that was there. I didn't really run into any hiccups or bumps. I was advancing, but I found that I wanted more out of my career. And at that time, you go through your associate, you're trying to get up and you move up through the levels. And I wasn't advancing like how I thought that I should have. So that was my big move for me, going over to be a manufacturer sales rep. I thought, okay, I'm doing so much, I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm running this whole higher education department, and yet I was being overlooked. Naturally, I think now people would understand and say, okay, well, that was just something that, it shouldn't have happened, or whatever the case may be. But for me in my career, I just knew that that was a pivotal moment where I understood my worth and my value. And I would never underestimate my value again in regards to that, and let someone define that. So I said, okay, now I'm going to be on this new path in my career to get up to the next level. And so while I was there, I was, specifying national office furniture. And so naturally it was just, I knew I would still be in the design field. I would be able to help those that were around me, still have the lingo. I was a certified interior designer, LEED accredited professional by the time I had left. And so I had everything pretty much under my belt. So I felt confident in taking that transition. And now it's just more or less meeting with the end users and the clients. And we have 2 ears for a reason, right? In this design field, we are really made to listen and problem solve. And it's how we go about doing that and responding to those and coming up with these crafted solutions. And so now over on the manufacturer side, it's more or less competing with the other manufacturers, vendors, and keeping a tight spec. But those are really, the challenges that I present myself, in front of everything. I think that when it comes down to it, they're going to look at you and the relationships that you build and that you're fostering, and if they can trust you. So I think on the manufacturer side, it's the trust level. On the design side, it was, okay, I'm aspiring to get more, but it wasn't happening as quickly as I would have liked for it to. Oh, sorry, Mary, long answer.
No, you're fine. You're fine, because you have more experience with versus, going from the dealer side to, even though it's dealer designer, project manager, and then sales. Basically, I don't know if it's that much of a difference, again, usually I was always the only minority in both sides. So it's always that where I think you always have that challenged, or the question of capabilities. Again, can you handle your job situation? And I think that's consistent throughout the career, just that question of what can you do, your capabilities. And so again, that drives me, so I know when people doubt me. So I was like, that's wonderful. It's like, and then just going from one to the other, like Salina was saying, is like, you use all that, architecture, interior design, educational background for your sales rep, to be a sales rep, and you use that. And so that educational process is key, to be a consultant, like Salina was saying. So, yeah, so part of that's consistency, but right. So it's you use who you are.
Great. That's a great perspective. I haven't thought of it like that. Y'all, this was awesome. So we're kind of wrapping up and getting to 10 o'clock. I don't want to keep everyone. So thank you everyone who attended, who asked questions. I'm really excited about the way that everything played out. And then also, again, we have episode 2 through 5 that are coming up. It'll be every other week, and it'll kind of alternate between Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they'll always be at 9 a.m., so be prepared. So I'm excited for everyone to be able to listen in. We do have different panelists for each episode. Some people will kind of come back on and be a recurring panelist, or a recurring speaker. And so I'm excited, y'all. So thank you all for attending. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you learned a lot and were able to have a new perspective on diversity through design. Yay!
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Do we leave?